We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
After it started demolishing UNRWA's headquarters there. Video shows bulldozers tearing down.
Her and given it to settlers from abroad. Israeli soldiers couldn't.
Edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Chris Mitchell, joined in our studio by the newest member of our staff.
This is a standoff in downtown Jerusalem between Israeli protesters and Israel.
What's Jerusalem dealing with right now, when so many serious things keep happening one right after another in such a short time? Religious leaders are openly warning that faith is being twisted. The Al-Aqsa holy site keeps getting stormed. Settlements are expanding fast and hard. Hundreds of families are being forced out of their homes. Kids are dying in the middle of protests. Society is split over military service. Prices are shooting up, and people are hitting the streets. And right in the middle of it all, art is trying to hold on to whatever bit of humanity is left. These things aren't separate. They're not random. They're piling up on each other, pushing Jerusalem into a level of tension we've never seen before. Don't you think it's strange when all these warning signs show up in the same place at once? The story doesn't end here. What's happening now is just the surface. So before we dig deeper into the really shocking truths, feel free to leave a prayer in the comments below. Just a simple way to show your faith, okay? And to keep you from waiting too long, let's jump right in to the shocking events in Jerusalem these past few days. Christian leaders in Jerusalem warn about Christian Zionism, a deception that's eating away at the foundations of faith. In the early days of 2026, a rare statement came out right from Jerusalem, home to some of the oldest Christian churches in the world. Patriarch Theophilos III of the Greek Orthodox Church, along with representatives from the Roman Catholic and Armenian churches, signed a joint document warning about a growing theological and political trend called Christian Zionism. The statement was made public, stressing that the local churches face the risk of being weakened on the very land where they've existed continuously for nearly 2,000 years. Have you ever wondered why these usually careful leaders felt they had to speak up right now? Jerusalem now has only about 2% of its people as Christians, a sharp drop from the last century because of migration, conflict, and long-term social pressure. In that setting, the traditional churches say they're feeling a stronger and stronger impact from outside religious movements, especially groups that tie Bible beliefs to modern political agendas. According to the joint statement, the issue isn't about supporting a country or a people. It's about using faith as a tool to push worldly power, which pulls the focus away from the true message of the gospel. 2 Thessalonians 2-3-4 warned long ago, "Don't let anyone deceive you in any way. The man of lawlessness will exalt himself above everything called God." From a theological view, the Jerusalem leaders see Christian Zionism as a selective way of reading the Bible, one that highlights promises about the land but skips over justice, humility, and care for the weak. The local churches believe this kind of interpretation pushes the native Christian community to the sidelines, even treating them as obstacles in a pre-planned political vision. Matthew 24-11 says clearly, "Many false prophets will appear and deceive many people," as a reminder that wrong teaching doesn't always come as open opposition. International sources like Al Jazeera and the Times of Israel report that this statement has sparked strong debate in global theology circles. Some Western scholars push back, saying the Jerusalem churches are coming at it from a replacement theology angle, while supporters argue it's a rightful self-defense from a community whose living and worship space is shrinking. The signing leaders aren't calling for confrontation. They're stressing their pastoral duty to protect unity and keep faith from getting mixed up in power games. 2 Peter 2-1 warns, "There will be false teachers, secretly bringing in destructive heresies, even denying the Lord who bought them." What's worth noting is that the document doesn't just point at outside forces. It directly calls out people in the area who are helping this trend along for political gain. According to the churches, mixing religion and power has pushed Jerusalem into cycles of conflict many times in history, and today is no different. When faith gets pulled away from serving people and toward bigger schemes, the results always go beyond anyone's control. James 3:14-16 says that where there's envy and selfish ambition, there you'll find disorder and every kind of evil. To those who say this is just internal church disagreement, the Jerusalem leaders insist the real concern is the long-term effects, not just academic debate. When an idea gets dressed up in Bible language to justify political actions, the line between faith and manipulation becomes thinner than ever. Religious history shows the biggest mistakes rarely start with violence. They start with interpretations that seem harmless. Matthew 7:15 reminds us, "Watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing." From Jerusalem, this warning rings out like an early signal, not to spread panic, but to make people pay attention. It raises questions about how the Bible is being used, what the real goals are of movements that claim to be faith-based, and each person's responsibility to discern truth. When spiritual foundations get worn down from the inside, collapse often happens quietly before it becomes obvious. And maybe the scariest thing isn't the debate itself, it's what might happen if this warning gets ignored. Tensions at Al-Aqsa are rising, with extreme Jewish visitors breaking in, holy site violated, war flames igniting. Tension exploded right in the quiet morning in Jerusalem. A group of extreme Jewish visitors, including Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, entered the Al-Aqsa compound under heavy protection from armed police. The sound of boots on the ancient stones, forbidden religious gestures, and angry looks from Muslims created a breathless moment. No speeches needed, the spark was lit, and the whole city could feel the fragile peace cracking minute by minute. Al-Aqsa is not just a place, it's the heart of memory and faith. This holy site, about 35 acres, is the third holiest place in Islam. It stands alongside Jewish and Christian holy sites in a delicate balance that is held since 1967. The existing agreement lets Muslims pray there, while Jews are only allowed to visit. History shows that when this line is crossed, violence usually follows quickly. This incident didn't happen quietly. Major news reports say this is the 14th time Ben-Gvir has shown up there since taking office, and the first in the new year. About 124 settlers entered through the Maghariba Gate and performed Jewish religious rituals near the Dome of the Rock. Last year saw around 280 similar incidents, showing this is not a one-time thing, but a repeated pattern. Reactions spread fast like shockwaves. The Arab League, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar all condemned it strongly, calling it a dangerous provocation. Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, street tensions rose. Security forces were beefed up, and a heavy sense of worry hung over everything. We don't have to imagine far to know what could happen. Just look at past outbreaks of violence after similar events. World opinion splits into two clear sides. One side says it's just a symbolic visit with no plan to change the status quo. The other side sees it as a deliberate push to force a new reality at the holy site, raising the risk of religious conflict to a dangerous level. People argue with legal and political words, but on the ground, the tension is impossible to hide. Every action can become the next spark. In this situation, many people turn to the Bible as the key to understanding. Matthew 24-15 warns, "So when you see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by the prophet Daniel, standing in the holy place, then let those in Judea flee to the mountains." These words aren't about one single event. They point to the moment the holy place is defiled, starting a chain of unstoppable changes. Daniel 11:31 makes the picture clearer. "Forces from him shall appear and profane the temple and fortress, take away the continual burnt offering, and set up the abomination of desolation." When rituals get replaced by power struggles, the holy site stops being a place of prayer and becomes a symbolic battlefield. What's happening at Al-Aqsa makes many people think directly of this warning. Revelation 11:2 widens the view to the long-term results. But do not measure the court outside the temple. Leave that out, for it is given over to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. The trampling isn't just physical, it's a spiritual violation, with faith caught in an endless cycle of confrontation. All of this leads to one hard-to-avoid truth. The constant challenges to the holy site show the old order is shaking, and Jerusalem once again stands at a dangerous crossroads. Each intrusion tests how much the community can take. The question isn't, will it escalate anymore? It's when. And if that final line is crossed, what will really be awakened from this holy place? Israel is pushing ahead with big settlement plans in East Jerusalem, on land that's hotly disputed, and it's crushing any hope for peace. These past few days, East Jerusalem has been heating up fast. The Israeli government is moving quickly to approve 2 large settlement projects. One is in Kalandia, Atarot, with about 9,000 apartments. The other is in Sheikh Jarrah, which could force dozens of Palestinian families out of their homes. These aren't just ideas on paper anymore. They're real steps happening right now, while the conflict keeps getting worse and peace talks are basically frozen. The map of Jerusalem is being redrawn right in front of the world, street by street, piece of land by piece of land, family by family. Major news reports say the Atarot project sits on the old airport land in northern Jerusalem, right between Palestinian neighborhoods like Kafr Aqab and Beit Hanina. With 9,000 homes, this settlement doesn't just grow bigger, it creates a huge Jewish area that cuts off East Jerusalem from the West Bank, breaking the connection between them. At the same time, the Nahalat Shimon plan in Sheikh Jarrah targets the Harun area, planning to tear down existing homes to build more than 300 new apartments. When these decisions come so close together, the big picture is clear. Jerusalem is being squeezed from all sides. The tension isn't just on planning documents. On the ground, Palestinian families are living with the fear of eviction notices any day. Lawyers are getting ready to fight in court, and security forces are showing up more and more. Streets that used to feel normal now feel like battle lines. In this atmosphere, it's easy to see this isn't just about building houses. It's a direct struggle over who controls the city and what its future will be. The Bible described times like this in very plain words. Jeremiah 6:6 says, "For this is what the Lord Almighty says, cut down the trees and build a siege ramp against Jerusalem. This city must be punished. It is full of oppression." The picture of a city surrounded, reshaped by force and injustice, hits hard when land and people are under so much pressure. Arguments broke out right away. Supporters say Israel has the right to build in areas it controls, that it's about long-term housing needs and security. On the other side, human rights groups and international watchers warn these settlements break international law and destroy any chance for a real, independent Palestinian state. Both sides clash hard, but everyone agrees on one thing. Decisions made today will affect things for decades to come. Isaiah 10:1-2 paints a familiar scene for arguments like this. Woe to those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees, to deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed. This part of the Bible isn't just about laws. It's about what happens when power is used to redraw land without thinking about fairness. What's happening in Sheikh Jarrah cuts even deeper into the divide. For Jewish people, it's about restoring historic ownership. For Palestinians, it's losing homes, roots, and their last foothold in East Jerusalem. Small protests, long court cases, and international media attention have turned this neighborhood into a symbol of the whole conflict. Amos 2:7 puts it plainly. They trample on the heads of the poor as on the dust of the ground and deny justice to the oppressed. Reading it again, it's hard not to see the similarity between that ancient warning and what's happening now. Overall, these settlement projects aren't separate events. They're pieces of a long-term plan to shape Jerusalem in a new way. Land changes hands, boundaries fade, and hope for peace slips farther away. A lot of people are starting to ask not who's right or wrong, but what price we'll pay when justice gets pushed aside. And when the last lines are finally paved over with concrete and new rules, what chapter comes next for Jerusalem? A forced order, or the moment of facing judgment that the Bible warned about long ago? The biggest forced eviction in East Jerusalem since 1967. People pushed out of their homes, cries filling the air. The decisions come down cold and final. The court rejects the last appeals. The eviction orders take effect in just weeks. No extensions, no deals. Homes get erased from residency records. People get shoved outside the law. In that moment, you realize the news isn't just words anymore. It's the sound of lives crashing. In Batin al-Hawa, a neighborhood in Silwan right next to Jerusalem's Old City, the largest forced eviction campaign since 1967 is underway. Around 700 Palestinian residents face being forced out of their homes after a series of court rulings all kicked in. In the most recent wave, 150 people from 28 families were told to leave within 21 days. You can see the impact right away on every street. Families pack up their belongings in the middle of the night. Kids have to leave school. Elderly folks lose their safe place. Earlier evictions already pushed out 13 families, 57 people total, from Batin al-Hawa. Experts have warned that this pace will keep going, creating a chain of displacements that's hard to stop. Jeremiah 22:3 used to be seen as a clear moral standard for those in power. This is what the Lord says: do what is just and right. Rescue those who have been robbed from the hand of their oppressors. Do no wrong or violence to the foreigner, the fatherless, or the widow. Do not shed innocent blood in this place. When you put those words next to these eviction orders, the contrast is stark and plain. The campaign in Silwan is tied closely to lawsuits pushed by settler organizations, using a legal system that lets them claim land from before 1948, but only in one direction. More than 90 families, over 450 people, including about 200 children, are still waiting for the next rulings. Every case that closes means one more home disappears from the map of daily life. The international response came quickly. The United Nations, through its humanitarian agencies, expressed deep concern, saying these evictions violate international humanitarian law. Several European countries issued statements calling for an immediate halt to the evictions, warning of rising tensions and damage to any chance of stability in the area. Still, the calls remain just warnings for now. Psalm 94:6 paints a dark picture of abuse of power. They slay the widow and the foreigner. They murder the fatherless. In Jerusalem's long history, verses like this get brought up again and again whenever the vulnerable are backed into a corner with nowhere to turn. Some say this is just a civil dispute handled through the current legal process. But human rights groups point out the imbalance in how the laws are applied. Rights to claim land and stay put aren't given equally. So the dispute isn't purely legal anymore. It's built into the system, leading to outcomes that feel predetermined. Isaiah 1:17 lays out a clear charge. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Reading those words against the scene in Silwan, the Bible feels like a direct indictment, no extra commentary needed. This wave of forced evictions is redrawing the human map of East Jerusalem. Each ruling doesn't just take away a house, it erases memories, communities, and ties built over generations. And when the last doors get locked from the outside, the question hangs in the air. Will those cries reach the conscience of the world, or will they just fade into the ancient stones of this city? Tragic accident at Haredi protest against military draft. Lives lost. Society torn apart. The cold numbers came first. In the Romema area of Jerusalem, a serious crash happened during a protest against the Haredi community's military service requirement. Several people got hurt at different levels, and some had to be rushed to the hospital right away. Emergency crews showed up in force. Streets were blocked off for hours, and the whole city felt tense, like a tight string about to snap. this kind of thing isn't new. For years, the argument over military service has driven a deep wedge in Israeli society. The Haredi community, which makes up more than 1 in 10 people in the country, strongly opposes being forced to serve so they can keep their closed religious way of life. Protests keep breaking out, clashing with police, and building more pressure and bad feelings between different groups in the same nation. What happened in Romema came at a moment when emotions were already running high. The crowd blocked the road, shouts echoed between the buildings, and traffic was stuck in total chaos. In one moment, things got out of hand. The accident struck, turning the protest into a flashpoint of violence. You can really feel how thin the line is between peaceful protest and disaster. Just 1 second of disorder can push everything beyond control. Right after, videos spread like wildfire on social media. You see chaotic streets, people running in panic, ambulance sirens going non-stop. Hospitals nearby got swamped, doctors and nurses working around the clock on the injuries. Online, lots of people called for things to calm down, for talk instead of violence, showing everyone's shared worry about a society hurting itself. The Bible describes times like this in strong words. Matthew 24:10 says, "Then many will turn away, betray each other, and hate each other." It's a picture of breakdown from the inside. When a community turns its back on its own brothers, no outside enemy needed. Israeli public opinion split right away. Some say it's just an accident in the middle of chaos, needs careful investigation, and we shouldn't fan the flames. Others see it as the natural result of forced policies and ignoring religious differences. The two sides keep clashing in the media, showing the social crack is wide open and hard to hide. Luke 21:23 warned about days like these. There will be great distress on the earth and wrath against this people. That verse isn't about one single event, but a chain reaction when pressure builds up and anger explodes inside society. From a neutral view, analysts point out that the Romema accident can't be separated from the long protests, regular confrontations, and growing lack of trust between communities. When shouting replaces talking, and the law feels like a threat instead of a shared framework, violence, whether accidental or not, finds room to grow. Ezekiel 38:21 paints a powerful picture. Every man's sword will be against his brother. It describes a society fighting itself, where the biggest danger doesn't come from outside, but from inner divisions that aren't healed. This wasn't just a traffic accident during a protest. It's a sign that Israeli society is under huge internal pressure. When religious differences, politics, and civic duty all crash together, the results aren't just on paper or in debates. They spill onto the streets and touch real people's bodies. And if these cracks keep widening, the question hanging there isn't who's right or wrong, but this: will that society find a path to reconciliation, or will it keep sliding deeper into the cycle of confrontation the Bible warned about long ago? The economy is crashing amid all the chaos, with protests against skyrocketing prices and government spending in the wrong places. People are rising up. Waves of protests are building right in Jerusalem, not just a quick flare-up, but ongoing, tense, and well-organized. Hundreds gathered in front of the religious Zionist Party office, holding signs and chanting against rising living costs and what they see as misplaced spending. The air is thick with frustration, as economic anger turns into real political pressure that everyone can feel. These protests are tied closely to Israel's economy after months of instability. Experts say inflation isn't just from the war or supply chain issues, it's also from controversial budget choices. Food, energy, and housing costs are all up, while help for regular folks gets cut or delayed, putting the burden on workers and small businesses. Some reports say basic food prices have jumped into double digits compared to last year, rents in big cities keep climbing, and indirect taxes add more pressure on everyday spending. In this situation, the tax-free import policies and tax changes pushed by Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich are getting criticized for hurting local production instead of helping people get by. The backlash isn't just in one spot. Dairy farmers are marching against price mechanism changes. Small business owners are worried about possible VAT hikes, and city workers feel left behind in budget priorities. It's clear this isn't just one group's gripe, it's a widespread feeling across society. The Bible describes times like this very plainly. Revelation 6:6 says, "A quart of wheat for a day's wages, 3 quarts of barley for a day's wages, and do not harm the oil and the wine." It's a picture of imbalance. Basics get super expensive, while some people's luxuries stay protected. Under growing pressure, the government's response is all over the place. Some officials stress that these economic steps are needed for long-term stability and national security. Others in the cabinet openly disagree, saying current spending is creating more division and eroding public trust. This lack of agreement makes people even more worried about steady leadership. Matthew 24:7 paints a bigger picture. There will be famines in various places. This verse isn't just about food shortages. It points to instability when distribution systems and social fairness start breaking down. When the economy shakes, tensions between groups can easily turn into open conflict. From a neutral view, observers say these protests make sense. People are dealing with high living costs and a long sense of unfairness. But with war, budget strains, and deep political divides, these frustrations could go beyond pure economics and turn into a deeper social crisis. James 5:1-3 offers another angle. "Come now, you rich, weep and howl. Your wealth has rotted." This passage questions the responsibility of those with power and money when the rich-poor gap widens and the consequences start hitting back at the system that created it. Do you think this view matches what's happening right in front of us? Protests over prices aren't new in history, but having them happen alongside security issues and political splits makes things extra sensitive now. When economic trust drops, society's patience has limits, and every decision gets judged through the lens of fairness. The story's still unfolding. Prices aren't cooling off. The budget fights continue, and Jerusalem's streets aren't calm yet. What's still open is whether these protest waves will force the government to shift priorities, or if they're just the start of a longer rough period that no one wants to name yet. The Jerusalem Art Exhibition, exploring life during and after conflict, art that heals in the storm, a glimmer of hope for peace. In the middle of all the tension and uncertainty in Jerusalem, there are quiet spaces where you don't hear shouting or see police barriers, just soft light, layers of color, and images that feel both abstract and very real. When you step into Beit Avichai, you find rooms where war isn't told through numbers, but through memories, feelings, and lives that got turned upside down. Maybe when you stand in front of those pieces, you feel a kind of stillness that's different from the fear outside. The exhibition, My Life at the Moment, came about during months of ongoing strain in Jerusalem. Instead of turning away from what's happening, the artists chose to face it, not with anger, but with quiet thought. Beit Avichai, a familiar cultural spot in the city, became a place where personal stories stand side by side, painting a bigger picture of inner life after conflict. The works by Maidad Eliyahu, Raya Brukenthal, Noga Greenberg, Elkanah Levi, and Alon Kadem don't tell the exact same story, but they share a sense of fragility. There are images of homes that aren't whole anymore, drawings that hint at war from a distance, and even gentle religious symbols slipping in. Nothing tries to shock you. It just opens up space for you to talk quietly with yourself. Psalm 30:5 says, "For his anger lasts only a moment, but his favor lasts a lifetime. Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning." That verse from the Bible seems to echo through the exhibition space, where sadness isn't ignored, but it doesn't get to take over the whole story. What's really striking is how people are responding. On social media, folks are sharing photos from the show with calm, understated comments. No big drama. Some see it as a brief pause from all the heavy news. Others say It's a reminder that spiritual life keeps going right alongside the conflict. The support isn't loud, but it spreads steadily, especially among creative people and those looking for some inner healing. Isaiah 61:3 talks about giving a crown of beauty instead of ashes to those who mourn in Zion. Here, art doesn't replace reality, but like that crown, it lays a fresh layer of meaning over the wounds. It doesn't erase the pain, but it helps people stand a little stronger when facing it. From a neutral view, this exhibition doesn't fix the big political or security problems, but it shows another side of Jerusalem's society. Even as violence and division grow, there are still quiet efforts to mend things from the inside. Guided tours in English and Hebrew are open to individuals and groups, making room for small conversations where people listen more than argue. Revelation 21:4 promises, "He will wipe every tear from their eyes." That scripture doesn't claim peace right now. It points to a future where suffering isn't forever. In the exhibition, it feels like a gentle nudge that hope doesn't always come from huge changes. Sometimes it starts with very small comforts. Some might say art is just a temporary shelter that doesn't touch the real issues. That's fair, but it's not the whole picture. In dark times, the fact that people can still create, still express pain through beauty, that itself is something worth thinking about. Amid this string of tense events, the exhibition doesn't shout, warn, or judge. It just stands there quietly, like a small patch of light in a city full of shadows. And that very quietness asks a deeper question. In these uncertain days, will we let fear lead the way? Or will we keep nurturing this fragile hope, even if it's just by slowing our steps in the middle of the storm? Looking back at those 7 things that have happened, a clear red thread starts to show up. From warnings by religious leaders, long land disputes, inner violence, economic hard times, all the way to quiet art spaces that bring healing. None of them stand alone. They connect like puzzle pieces, forming a bigger picture of a world that's shaking both on the outside and deep inside. The Bible describes times like this not as one single event, but as a series of signs. Matthew 24:6-8 says, "You will hear of wars and rumors of wars, but the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation. All these are the beginning of birth pains." Looking at what's happened, it's hard to deny the feeling that we're right in that beginning stage. Conflicts over faith show how power and religion can get mixed up. Land fights reveal greed and unfairness. Inner violence shows a society turning against itself. Economic crises expose deep cracks in everyday life. And through it all, art quietly reminds us that people are still searching for light, even if it's just a small ray. Jeremiah 30:17 says, "I will restore your health and heal your wounds." That promise whispers gently amid all the brokenness. None of this is meant to scare us more. It's meant to wake us up. Ephesians 5:14 says, "Wake up, O sleeper, and Christ will shine on you." Waking up isn't just noticing the signs of the times. It's also returning to prayer, humility, and trust in God in a world that keeps changing. Right now, we can pause, quiet our hearts, and pray for ourselves, our families, and places that are hurting. If there's a prayer in your heart, a thought, or a Bible verse that comes to mind, feel free to leave it in the comments. It's a way we can lift each other up in faith. Those simple words can sometimes bring real comfort to someone else. If this series has given you something worth thinking about, please share it so more people get the reminder. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next messages. Every share isn't just a click. It's a way to spread a gentle warning and some hope when it's needed most. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end. May the Lord give us and our families His peace in these uncertain days. Amen.
It's been revealed the mother of 3 was shot 4 times, as our US correspondent Catherine Firkin explained.
The shooting death of US citizen Renee Good have been released. Court says within minutes of her car crashing into a pole.
To our big story tonight. Friday morning, FBI agents arrested a Milwaukee County.
Judge, anything to say about this? The Trump administration opening a new channel in its immigration.
Looking around the vehicle and then to the front of it. Another agent tells Renee Good.
What's really being hidden when a single gunshot rings out in Minneapolis and shakes the whole power structure? Are you feeling uneasy about a future that looks completely chaotic? If so, it proves this video didn't just show up by chance. It really found its way to you. From Minneapolis, a bloody clash kicks off a federal investigation. Data pulled from a seized phone leads straight to judges in Illinois and Texas. Arrest warrants get signed in the middle of the night. The city's power center gets raided. Assets and secrets get dragged into the open under federal watch. Every location is a piece of the puzzle, and they're all connecting into a scary picture. And the real story doesn't stop there. Right below, you're about to see the full truth unveiled about the chain of events shaking the whole country. Before we dive in, drop a prayer in the comments. Just a way to hold steady in the spreading chaos. No need to wait any longer. Let's jump right into the first hot update, the gunshot that tore through Minneapolis. Crime cover-up or justice under fire. A sharp crack shattered the quiet morning in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and in just a split second, the normal everyday order broke like glass hit by a rock. Amid the gun smoke and blaring sirens, you're no longer just watching this story. You feel the chaos, the cold dread, the suffocating unease right there with it. Minneapolis isn't new to clashes, but that shot pushed things way past the usual line. A 7-year-old woman named Renee Good went down after an ICE agent fired during what they called a routine operation. In a few seconds, a standard law enforcement job turned into tragedy, and we started seeing this wasn't some isolated incident. This city of over 425,000 people has been a hotspot for federal crackdowns for years, where ICE agents often face fierce pushback. Homeland Security reports show attacks on federal agents have jumped more than 150% lately. Things like throwing hard objects, ramming vehicles, even homemade weapons. Those numbers hit different when you see the video of a car speeding straight toward officers. According to Fox News, at the moment of the shooting, Renee Good drove her car right toward the ICE agents during an immigration raid, forcing them to react instantly. One bullet went through the windshield, and it all ended in chaos. Screams, screeching brakes, blood on the cold pavement. Watching frame by frame, you can almost feel the heart-pounding tension no script could ever capture fully. What happened in Minneapolis isn't one of a kind. Similar cases popped up in Illinois and Texas, where federal agents got hit by cars or makeshift weapons on the job. The FBI has logged hundreds of these attacks in recent years, pointing to a bolder wave of violence, and that gunshot starts looking like just the tip of something much bigger and more dangerous. In the Bible, Psalm 37:14-15 warns about that cycle of violence. The wicked draw the sword and bend their bows to bring down the poor and needy, but their swords will pierce their own hearts, and their bows will be broken. Those old words ring like an indictment, not against one person, but against using violence to hide the truth. The investigation peeled back more layers, making the picture messier. Renee Good didn't just happen to be there. Reports say she had loose ties to a criminal network already under watch. Those connections shift the question from self-defense or mistake to who's really behind this and why use violence as a shield. Jeremiah 9-8 nails it. Their tongues are like deadly arrows. They speak friendly words to their neighbors, but in their hearts they plot harm. Put that next to the facts coming out, and it's hard not to think of hidden power structures where words and actions go in totally opposite directions. Right after the video came out, people split hard. One side says it's clear self-defense. Federal agents keep getting rammed by vehicles. The other side blasts ICE for excessive force, turning a check into an instant death sentence. Those two views crash hard on TV and social media, leaving the big question, based on what we've seen and what's coming out, which side are you leaning toward? Those arguments aren't just about the law. They show a deeper fear of a society where violence is getting way too normal. With raids, resistance, and gunshots piling up, the line between justice and chaos gets scary thin, and we start wondering how many more shots before it all spins out of control. The Bible doesn't pick sides here. In moments like this, Scripture doesn't defend anyone. It exposes violence as a double-edged sword that eventually cuts the one swinging it. It's a reminder that covering up truth with force always carries a price you can't escape. So the gunshot in Minneapolis didn't just end one life. It kicked off a chain of events spreading far beyond the city. Seized evidence, connections coming to light, federal probes tightening. It all signals deeper layers still waiting to be uncovered. And while the smoke hasn't even cleared yet, we're already at a new crossroads of truth, with what's coming next looking even more explosive. Corruption network ripped open. 15 judges sold out cheap. The investigation didn't stop at the Minneapolis scene. It suddenly took a much darker, more chilling turn. From the smashed phone grabbed after the shooting, hidden data got cracked open. Messages and deals started popping up like sharp pieces of glass. We began to see this wasn't just one person's story anymore. It was a door cracking open to a whole system rotting from the inside. The first findings left investigators stunned. Careful notes listing payments, dates, locations, and names of the judges sitting on the bench. Justice, what we always thought was untouchable, suddenly looked like it had a price tag. When this came out, you weren't just hearing news anymore. You got pulled right into the center of a legal earthquake. According to U.S. Department of Justice reports, judicial corruption isn't rare. Dozens of convictions get announced every month. In one recent stretch, they saw more than 30 cases in a short time. Those numbers used to just sit on paper, but when you connect them to the Minneapolis data, a clear network starts to form. It stretches from Minnesota to Illinois and reaches into Texas. The investigation exploded like a chain reaction. Early one morning, agents hit multiple addresses at once. Doors got kicked in, lights flipped on, computers and files got sealed. 15 judges were arrested, almost at the same time, each one tied to different prices. $40,000 to $60,000 to ignore procedural mistakes, $150,000 to throw out a case, and $300,000 to make sure an appeal went the right way. Mainstream news outlets say these details have been confirmed by several independent investigations. Public anger spread fast. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, shouting loud, holding up signs with bitter questions about trust being betrayed. You could feel the tension in the air, like a taut wire. Every accusation carried years of built-up disappointment. Justice, once seen as the last safe place, now became the target of raw fury. Past cases make the picture even grimmer. In Arizona and New Mexico, an operation called Broken Gavel took down 12 judges who took bribes from cartels, totaling $42 million according to FBI records. In Wisconsin, a judge got accused of hiding immigrants to block arrests, and the Fat Leonard case exposed millions in bribes sneaking into the Navy system. When you string it all together, Minneapolis isn't an outlier. It's just one link. In the middle of these cold facts, the Bible speaks like a direct accusation. Proverbs 17:23 says, "The wicked accept bribes in secret to pervert the course of justice." Short, sharp words, like a knife, straight to the heart of what's right in front of us. No need to stretch it. Just lay it next to the facts, and the match is chilling. More findings kept pouring fuel on the fire. The data shows these crooked decisions didn't just change one case's outcome. They hurt whole communities, letting people with money walk free while leaving the powerless behind. Jeremiah 5:28 described it. They do not judge with justice the cause of the orphan. They do not defend the rights of the poor. Put that verse next to these bent rulings, and it feels terrifyingly spot on for right now. Of course, not everyone buys the conclusion right away. Some call it a witch hunt, saying the justice system is being blown out of proportion. But DOJ numbers show judicial corruption cases made up to 44% of federal convictions in certain periods. Those figures force a hard question. If this isn't a systemic problem, why are the rates so high? And how do you look at these facts? The debate keeps splitting people. One side demands major reform. The other worries that painting with too broad a brush will wreck whatever trust is left in the law. Between those two views, one thing can't be denied. Handcuffs have clicked on those judges' wrists, and sealed documents aren't hidden anymore. The truth, shocking as it is, keeps coming into the light. Bible verses keep showing up like stern warnings. Power without accountability leads to collapse. No fancy words, no excuses, just a raw comparison between ancient teaching and today's reality. When you see it, it's hard to call this all just coincidence. The widening investigation has broken the silence, but it's also raising a bigger question. If these 15 judges are only the tip of the iceberg, then who coordinated it? Who benefited most from this system? And who had enough power to shield it for so long? The probes are slowly pointing toward the heart of power in Minneapolis, where strange signs are piling up. The story pauses here, right before the biggest names get called out. We're standing on the edge, between anger and waiting, between what we know and what might get flipped open next. And when that next door swings wide, it might not just be one system on trial. It could be society's trust pushed to the breaking point. Uncovering the dark truth about Hassan Dul and the secret basement in Minneapolis. On the outside, it's bright lights on stage, smooth speeches, and sky-high approval ratings. But behind that shiny image, there are deep, dark cracks leaking out the real story. When the cameras turn off, what's really left in that house of power, and are you ready to look right at it? Hassan Dul, the mayor of Minneapolis, Minnesota, used to be praised as a symbol of success and fitting in. Then suddenly, he was pulled down from the top by charges that make your blood run cold. From big campaign cheers to 72% support, it all flipped fast against one heavy question. Who's really behind that smile? Walls of power are often painted with hope, but the truth is, they're scratched up with debt and shady deals. Reports say gambling losses and a long, messy divorce pushed Dul into a financial mess, where vague promises started replacing solid principles. Ever wonder, when the pressure hits hard, does a person hold on to honor or trade it all away? The quiet investigation kept building in the shadows, piece by piece turning into a scary picture. Reports show financial tracking caught strange money flows, secret meetings outside normal hours, and coded calls repeating through the night. No noise, no show, just the cold facts written down. The breaking point came at dawn, when agents shattered the silence in a Minneapolis suburb. Under the stairs, in what looked like a normal house, a hidden basement opened up after hydraulic tools roared in, revealing cash and illegal weapons. That moment sliced right through the cover, and could you feel an icon shaking and falling apart? Ecclesiastes 5-8 hits the heart of this before any excuses start. If you see the poor oppressed in a province, and justice and rights denied, do not be surprised, for one official watches over another, and higher ones are over them. Those words ring like a key unlocking layers of stacked up power. This story doesn't stand alone. History in America has shaken many times from similar falls. Reports say the FBI handles dozens of cases every year with high officials, from New York to New Orleans, where backroom deals get exposed by clever stings. That pattern makes the air feel heavier and colder. The debate exploded right away. Some say Dul was just a victim of personal pressure. Others call it the natural result of bad choices. Forums heated up. Comments clashed hard. And where do you stand on that line between sympathy and accountability? Jeremiah 22:13 shines straight into the argument with no mercy. Woe to him who builds his house by unrighteousness, and his upper rooms by injustice. The higher the position, the harder the fall, especially when the foundation was crooked from the start. Skeptics question political motives, but independent data and recorded tapes have closed the circle tight. Reports show the exchanges were willing, not forced, and every decision carried cold calculation. Against that evidence, denials start sounding pretty thin. This truth feels even creepier than the first shock, because it reminds us success on the outside can hide the darkest rooms inside. Ever think power can turn into a clever trap that ends up swallowing the person holding it? When the light finally hits, the story isn't just about one guy. It spreads to thousands of files affected. Sentences need review, trust gets shaken, and a whole system has to face its real face. This isn't just one news item anymore. It's a wake-up bell ringing right into the heart of society. Ecclesiastes 5:8 echoes again, stressing the harsh rule of layered power, where no one escapes judgment's sight. That explains why those at the top fall so hard. The drop from peak to bottom is always a deep, endless pit. With Dool under arrest, many believe justice is spreading. But the bigger question still hangs there. What happens to over 1,000 related cases, and will real changes be strong enough to chase away the darkness lurking behind the doors of power? Is justice about to win, seizing assets, hunting criminals, and reforming the justice system? The moment that last thread snaps, the whole system that once protected power comes crashing down like a rotten wall after just one push. When the handcuffs click shut outside a house in Minneapolis, Minnesota, do you feel the echo of an era finally coming to an end? Hassan Dool is led out of his home under flashing blue and red lights. Sealed boxes are loaded into vans, and the list of seized property runs pages long. Cash, weapons, secret files, all come out into the open, turning years of cover-ups into nothing but ashes in front of everyone. This isn't just one isolated hit. According to DOJ stats, corruption costs the U.S. billions of dollars every year, and big arrests like this often open the door to real, deep changes. Are we watching the wheels of justice start turning faster? Right after Dool's arrest, reports say more than 1,000 old cases that went through the Minneapolis justice system got pulled back for review. Old files are being opened again, sentences are getting looked at line by line, and public trust faces a tough but necessary test. Psalm 89:14 stands as the foundation for all of this, reminding us of an unshakable order. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Steadfast love and faithfulness go before you. Those words put everything happening now into a bigger frame of values that outlast the headlines. The crackdown doesn't stop at Minneapolis. Reports show people who once benefited from wrong decisions in Illinois and Texas are now being tracked down, their financial records frozen, and subpoenas going out all at once. Do you see how this chain reaction is spreading faster than anyone expected? Along with the arrests, the system is forced to look hard at itself. Federal oversight is being put in place, independent audits are ramping up, and trial processes are getting tighter with new layers of checks. Every step is being made public. No room left for guesswork. Isaiah 61:8 rings out clearly in all this, a straight reminder of standards that can't be compromised. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing. When those words sit next to the numbers of things seized, the message feels cold and very clear. We've seen similar examples before, from Puerto Rico, where a mayor who took bribes got 30 months in prison, to New York, where oversight penalties were used to rebuild whole departments. History shows that every big fall leads to a real reshaping. Some people are still skeptical, saying the changes are only skin deep. But FBI data shows corruption-related convictions have gone up by an average of 12.5 cases per 10 million people during periods of serious reform. Do those numbers feel like reassurance to you, or a challenge? The pessimists often forget cases like Bridgegate that actually led to real reforms and changed how entire systems worked for years afterward. The shift doesn't happen overnight, but it leaves lasting marks. As boxes get sealed and new rules get rolled out, the public mood is slowly moving from anger to careful hope. This isn't a quick celebration. It's a time that calls for patience and steady watching. Psalm 89:14 shines on the situation again, stressing that the foundation of order isn't in any one person. It's in unchanging principles. When those principles get put back in the right place, the broken pieces start finding new shape. This whole chain of events proves one thing you can't deny. Even if the road is long and winding, wrongdoing eventually gets dragged into the light. Trust isn't built on promises. It's built on actions proven over time. But the story doesn't end here. When one link breaks, bigger questions come up about the full picture of our time, where these signs keep showing up more and more. What's waiting ahead? And what's the deeper meaning of all these shifts in the unfolding story of Scripture? The Bible picture. From corruption to judgment day, God's signs in chaotic times. A quiet settles in after all the fast-moving storms, like a city holding its breath just before dawn. In that silence, you can feel a question rising quietly. No need for a quick answer. From the shots fired in Minneapolis to secret doors being busted open, the pieces that seemed scattered suddenly fit together into one clear picture. When you lay them side by side, it's no longer just a string of hot news. It's a deep slice of our time, where power gets tested and what's right gets weighed. The bigger view shows this isn't about one person or one place. DOJ numbers point to thousands of cases of judicial corruption across the whole country, repeating like the cycles that sank ancient empires. You see that pattern, don't you? Without anyone having to point it out? Looking back over the whole story, the first 4 parts rise up like waves. It starts with violence breaking out, then investigations spreading wide. Next, the collapse of centers of power, and finally, forced changes. DOJ records show an average of about 12.9 corruption cases for every 10 million people, meaning the problem stretches far beyond Minnesota. It's there in Texas too. When you line those events up with the Bible, an old story suddenly throws light on today. In 1 Kings 21, the tragedy of King Ahab and Naboth's vineyard isn't just ancient history, it's a pattern that keeps coming back. Greed and twisted justice. Ahab used his power and a crooked court to take what wasn't his, much like how justice has been bought and sold in the files just uncovered. 1 Kings 21:21 records the judgment that can't be escaped. I will bring disaster on you and wipe out your house. Those words stand like a red line, reminding us that power can't shield anyone from the truth forever. When Elijah stepped up to expose it all, that picture brings to mind modern investigators forcing the darkness into the open. The parallels don't stop there. Psalm 94:23 puts a clear rule right in the middle. He will bring back their evil on them. He will destroy them through their own wickedness. When assets get seized and sentences get reviewed, that rule seems to play out in today's language. Some might say putting the Bible next to current events feels forced, but history shows corruption always follows the same path. Cover it up, let it grow, then it falls apart. Jeremiah 23:12 describes that path in a chilling way. Their way will be like a slippery path in the dark. They will be pushed down on it. Think a little deeper, and what's striking isn't just the punishment, it's the purpose behind it. These upheavals force society to face questions about moral standards, about the line between power and duty. You can see in it not only an ending, but a call to get back on track. The Bible repeats that judgment doesn't come to destroy for no reason, it comes to restore order. When human justice gets twisted, structures have to break, so something better can take their place. That's the logic running straight through from ancient stories to today's legal reality. Seen that way, those dry DOJ numbers aren't just stats anymore. They become signs showing how widespread the problem is and how badly change is needed. Every case brought to light peels off another mask. Some worry that faith will wear thin when these big figures fall. But the Bible offers a different view. Faith isn't built on people, it's built on what's right. When right gets put back in the center, the falling becomes a turning point. Ahab's story shows that power at its peak is often when it's easiest to slip. Jeremiah 23:12 doesn't picture the fall as thunder and lightning. It's a quiet slide in the dark. That image mirrors how small, repeated bad choices lead to an unavoidable end. From Minneapolis to other states, the modern picture seems to replay the same old message. Justice that's bought and sold digs its own grave. When it happens on a large scale, the impact isn't personal anymore, It's something that marks the whole era. In the final quiet of the story, what lingers isn't police sirens or flashing lights. It's the question inside. Will you see this chain of events as just a historical accident, or as a reminder of an order bigger than any system? Justice doesn't disappear, even when it's hidden for a while. What's happening now reflects a steady rule. Truth gets pulled into the light at the right moment. When that happens, hope isn't about dodging the crisis. It's about walking through it with standards reset. And as this picture closes, another view slowly opens, one where similar signs keep showing up in our changing world. Will you spot them when silence settles in again? Or will the story lead us deeper into parts of the age still untold? No one expected it all to start from one short moment, when the calm was shattered and everything slipped off its familiar track. From there, layers of truth slowly came to light, not loud at first, but clear enough to make people stop and take a closer look at what was really happening around them. Each news report that came after didn't stand alone anymore. They linked together like a chain, moving from violence to investigation, then reaching the deepest levels of power. When money starts slipping into justice, when fine-sounding names cover up the truth, and when things that seemed rock solid begin to crack, the full picture slowly emerges, not just of one city, but of an entire system. Looking back at those 5 reports, viewers aren't just watching the news anymore. We're seeing a pattern that's repeated many times in history. Wrongdoing gets exposed step by step, exactly the way the Bible warned long ago. Proverbs 17:23 named the root of the problem early on. The wicked accept bribes in secret to pervert the course of justice. When you see the whole chain of events, that verse doesn't feel like some ancient symbol anymore. It's an exact description of what's happening today. Psalm 94:23 completes the picture by stressing that evil will eventually turn back on the one who caused it. In times like these, the call isn't about fear. It's about waking up. We're reminded that justice may be slow, but it's never absent. And our trust isn't in people, but in the one who holds ultimate authority. Isaiah 1:16-17 says it plainly. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. That's not just a message for those in power. It's for every heart watching these changing times. In this quiet moment, each of us can ask ourselves where we stand in that bigger picture. Take a second to pray for wisdom, for protection, and for a heart that doesn't grow hard toward what's right. If something feels heavy on your heart, leave a prayer or a sincere thought in the comments below as a way to lift each other up in faith. If these words gave you something to think about or a needed reminder, please like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Every share can be a chance for light to reach one more person who needs to hear about what's right. Thank you for staying with me to the end. I pray that you and your family are kept safe, find peace in your minds, and stay strong in faith. May the Lord's light guide us through these troubled times. Amen.
Residents northeast of Oklahoma City are saying a loud, shrill noise.
A mysterious sound heard through parts of Fort Greene, Brooklyn has been driving some people, we are told, crazy.
Yeah,
This modern world that we thought was so solid and secure is shaking in ways that science just can't explain anymore. From big cities full of lights to quiet little towns out in the country, strange things are popping up one after another, like an invisible power knocking on the door, warning us that mankind has stepped way too close to the final line. Matthew 24, verses 3-14, talked about wars, famines, and earthquakes. But what we're seeing today goes far beyond ordinary disasters. These are supernatural signs, calls coming from heaven that nobody can ignore. Do you feel it too? Like something big is getting real close? Like time itself has gotten heavy and the whole world is holding its breath? Nature isn't just changing, it's groaning. The ground moves like it's alive. The deep ocean is throwing up shapes nobody's ever named. The sky is making sounds like trumpets from another kingdom. And all of this is happening right here in America. 7 different things, from the sea to the land, from the sky down to the depths, aren't just random pieces. They're connected, like echoes of prophecy, like the heartbeat of the last days. What we're about to look at isn't just news. It's evidence that the words of the Bible are coming alive in the 21st century, not fading away, but shining bright in a way that's both mysterious and downright scary. The whole point of this video is to open each one of these doors, line them up with scripture, answer the doubters, and then put the full picture together so you can answer one question for yourself. How much time do we really have left? So please, don't skip over any of these signs. All right, let's jump in and look at them one by one. We'll start with 1. The land across the western states and Texas is starting to breathe. It all started real quiet-like, the way a long-held breath finally slips out from deep down. Out in California, then Oregon, and clear down into Texas, folks and engineers started saying the same thing. The ground was swelling up and then sinking back down, steady as clockwork, like something huge underneath was trying to wake up. No earthquakes, no warnings on the seismographs, but roads shifted a few inches overnight. Sounds crazy, but the cracks in house foundations around San Francisco and the weird sinking patches out in rural Texas told a different story. Places that hadn't budged in decades, from the Pacific coast all the way to the dry inland areas, were suddenly acting like some invisible hand was bending the rules of geology. Surveyors measured it and found the ground moving in rhythm, not random at all, more like the planet's own heartbeat. Animals went nuts, dogs barking straight down at the dirt, cattle running off from fields they'd known their whole lives. Some folks swore that when they stood still, they could feel warm air pushing up through their shoes, like the earth itself was breathing. There's something about it that'll make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. It's not just strange, it feels like one of those old warnings straight out of the Bible. In Isaiah chapter 24, right before verse 19, it talks about the earth being broken and torn open like a curtain at the end. Then verse 19 hits like thunder across the centuries. The earth is utterly broken apart. The earth is split open. The earth is violently shaken. When people watch the ground rising and falling, like a body taking its last breaths, they start whispering, "Is this what Isaiah saw coming?" It's not just Isaiah. Over in Romans chapter 8, before verse 22, Paul talks about all creation being like a living body, waiting to be set free from decay. Then verse 22 fits what we're seeing perfect. For we know that the whole creation groans and labors with birth pangs together until now. San Francisco, Texas, the whole West, it's turned into the picture of that groaning, that long, tired sigh of a world waiting for judgment. And in Joel chapter 2, right before verse 10, there's the warning about the final army coming. Verse 10 says, "Before them the earth quakes, the heavens tremble." When the ground across America starts moving, not from earthquakes, but from this breathing, folks suddenly realize those words weren't just for reading. They were meant to wake us up. Some try to say it's just groundwater pressure or side effects of climate change, but the scientists themselves shake their heads. No model explains something this big happening in perfect sync, and none of them can account for a rhythm that looks intelligent. This isn't something man-made, and it sure isn't any ordinary natural event. You and I both know, sometimes the Lord doesn't speak in words. He speaks through the ground moving under our feet. This is a warning about how fragile everything really is. Even the things we thought we had under control. One breath from the earth, and it all starts to sway. And when the land itself starts coming alive, the only question left is, what's next? To find that answer, we've got to look out toward the ocean, because there's an even bigger sign waiting out there. 2. A strange sea monster, Leviathan, shows up off the Pacific Ocean. Out in the cold morning fog off the California coast, a bunch of fishermen thought they were just watching dark waves rolling across the Pacific. Then the water ripped open, and this huge black shape rose up from way down deep. Their cameras were shaking bad, not from rough seas, but because their hands wouldn't stop trembling once they realized whatever was coming up didn't look like any creature folks had ever seen before. A real sea monster, so long you couldn't see both ends at once, stretching out like it was measuring their boat. This part of the ocean is famous for mile-deep trenches and lots of earthquakes, but nobody, not even the ocean scientists, ever talked about something hundreds of feet long with shiny metal-like scales catching the gray morning light. Its tail slapped the water once, sending white-capped waves around their little boat. But the thing that really sent chills down their spines wasn't the size. It was the head slowly coming out of the water, long, sharp teeth like tusks, and black eyes that looked right through you, like it could see straight into your soul. It didn't attack, didn't roar, didn't smash the boat. It just looked. Not the look of a wild animal, but something that knew what it was doing, like it had a reason. The creature circled their boat 3 times, slow, on purpose, like it was checking them out, weighing something, or maybe trying to tell them something we haven't figured out yet. Some of the fishermen later said the moment its eyes met theirs, they felt a voice inside their head. No words, just a feeling. Not a threat, a warning. A lot of folks have heard the name Leviathan from old stories, but only after watching the video again did it really hit home. In Isaiah chapter 27, right before verse 1, the Bible talks about the day the Lord punishes the twisting creature in the deep sea. Then verse 1 says, "In that day the Lord shall punish Leviathan the piercing serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea." Those words didn't feel far away anymore when you saw that giant thing quietly rise up from the bottom of the Pacific. In Job chapter 41, right before verse 1, it says, "No human power can tame Leviathan." Then verse 1 asks straight out, "Canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook?" Throwing down a challenge to human pride. Watching something that huge on the video, that question feels like a sharp reminder. Some things only God can control. And in Psalm 104, verse 26 says, "There go the ships, there is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein." When this Leviathan swam beside their boat, not hurting anything, just watching, it really did look like it was playing, exactly the way the Bible described. Scientists want to say it's just some unknown deep-sea whale, but the size is way beyond what biology says is possible. The metal scales, the aware eyes, the deliberate behavior. No. And the video can't be completely faked when you've got dozens of angles from different phones and cameras on the same boat. And you know, sometimes God doesn't use thunder or earthquakes to get our attention. He uses creatures from the deepest parts of the ocean, places man can't reach. Leviathan isn't just a sea creature. It's a picture of power we can't measure. A reminder that chaos can rise up anytime he says it's time. And right after Leviathan showed up, people started hearing strange sounds from the sky. A sound like trumpets, opening the third sign, 3, the trumpet sound from the sky. Nobody in California thought that quiet evening would turn into a moment that made thousands of people would never forget. It started with one long, metallic note echoing way up in the sky. Then came a second one, a third, like the slow breath of some huge, invisible trumpet hanging in the air. Just minutes later, folks in Nevada and Texas recorded the exact same thing. It was as if the whole sky was sounding one strange signal that nobody had ever heard before. The videos spread like wildfire. Big cities, suburbs, open fields, deserts. Everywhere you looked, the same deep, sharp, powerful sound. Experts said the air pressure was acting weird that day, but even they couldn't explain why the volume, loud enough to make windows shake a few inches in their frames. Old glass panes in Texas rattled against the wood like they were nervous, and out on a ranch in Nevada, horses bolted from their stalls like something invisible was chasing them. People didn't just hear it, they felt it in their chests, in their ribs, like an unseen hand giving the whole world a shake. An old lady in California told the news with a shaky voice, "It felt like somebody up there was calling our name." And just imagine, You're standing there. You hear that. Would you brush it off? Or would you feel something holy hiding inside that bone-chilling sound? In 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, right before verse 16,